How's it going, everybody? There's been some craziness going on in the Rocket League space, especially when it comes to the esports side of things. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of orgs dip out. A lot of orgs go through refinement. As you guys are familiar with this channel, I'm Adam Lawler Thornton. I talk about Rocket League as well as esports as a whole. I'm a consultant in the industry, and in particular, Rocket League has been seeing a lot of turnover when it comes to not only layoffs, but orgs merging as well as just leaving the scene altogether. We're going to provide some examples, some as a general update of what's been going on, as well as providing some insight as to why this is happening, as well as why it's actually such a negative thing in particular with one of these organizations leaving, because of the things that I know from talking to them behind the scenes. So with that in mind, let's kind of set the scene, let's set the tone, and then we'll get into it. Some of these we're going to put more emphasis on than others. The first one is obviously, as you guys know, way back in April, V1 has hinted that they're looking for a merger. We already knew that this one was kind of the only rumor that G2 was looking to be acquired. We've already seen stuff with their Valorant team and a bunch of others starting to be taken over by other organizations, the selling of their Call of Duty team with Rocker and everything else. The Rocket League team being G2 with Atomic, Beast Mode, Daniel. All that stuff seems like the final signings are coming to completion. Like, it's getting to that point. It's a long process to basically hand over your entire IP, allow them to basically strip it for everything it's worth, and then let go of everything else, sell the assets, whatever they want to do. So that's getting closer and closer. It's going to be a long process, but I do not expect, and none of you should have expected, V1 or its branding to stick around. The team, the organization, everything is done. We'll talk about why this is in effect towards the end of the video. Alongside that, we also saw that Koi is also no longer going to be in Rocket League. We talked about this as well in regards to their owner. Rogue and Koi merged, buying all the guys that are, Spanish speaking and all that kind of stuff. Talked about the financial woes and how he's not able to afford it and all that kind of stuff. And even though he's a massive content creator, he does collaborations with Lionel Messi and all that kind of stuff. The financing of this has been problematic, and it, in my consulting experience, is always the same thing. All these organizations fall from the same issue, and it is their failure to understand that esports is a marketing tool in its current state. You are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a team promote themselves, which you could just do on Facebook ads if you wanted to for significantly less. You are not marketing a product. You are not generating any revenue. You are hoping that the viewership that comes from having a team is enough to secure a title partnership, even though that partnership is not beneficial for the organization anyway. If I am a product and I am saying, hey, slap us on your jersey, they're better off not doing that nowadays. And VCs, venture capitalists, and organizations and advertisers, sponsors are getting more intelligent about the buzzword that is esports, and those marketing dollars are no longer there. So organizations need to stop hiring marketers, and they need to hire operational people to help them drive revenue by building product and sustainable business models. So then you can take that and then grow it with the marketing tool that you have now acquired that is an esports team. An example, YouTubers like KSI, Logan Paul, you can talk Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is obviously a unique circumstance, but at the highest of highs, his videos pull twice the amount of viewership of the Super Bowl per video. And people can't afford to spend money for his advertising. If you're a sponsor, you can't pay your marketing budget towards Mr. Beast because it's one for the entirety of the year. So Mr. Beast instead makes product and uses his own vehicle, his YouTube videos, as the marketing tool. Puts out Feastables, Beast Burger, etc., and then promotes it with his videos. You should do the same with your organizations. That is free advice to any orgs that are watching or anybody who's doing it. If you'd like to consult me, reach out to me for my email. But case in point, you have a vehicle to promote. You need to have the thing you're trying to promote, and your team can't be that. You can't promote your own market. It's stupid. Just stop doing it. On top of that, we then saw the big one, and this is the one I'm most frustrated about because a lot of people don't realize how important they are to the scene, is Team Liquid is also saying farewell for now. To take you guys a step further back, a Tau has officially been released. He is most likely going to K-Corp. You also have Oski, who is going over to Oxygen, which only leaves a Chronic and their coach Xperi. I don't think they want to do a rebuild based upon pricing and who's available. And because of that, they're taking a step away. They're going to recoup the costs and hopefully look to come back in the 2025 season, whenever that may be. The thing about this article, if you guys haven't read it, I recommend checking it out. They talk a lot about the ecosystem of Rocket League, and they state, hey, the only one to really make money in Rocket League esports is by being a winning team. If you want to sustain in this league, you have to win. You have to earn big prize pools. You have to take a percentage of the prize pools, and then and only then can you really make money. To which I say, to an extent, is true. There's other ways to do it. You can have reasonable salaries that aren't way inflated through the market. You can actually make content, which they admit they could have done a much better job of, because we know what it is. Team Liquid didn't make any content around their team, and you could go the energy route and actually make some money that helps sustain your team, and then you can endorse it. I mean, look at how many deals they do with Musty and stuff. They make money. They do some really good things with the Rocket League team. You don't put on a content creator contract thing with Carvana unless Carvana's pockets are deep and they're sponsoring the whole thing. So again, there is ways to make money in Rocket League even if you're not winning. Energy is a prime example. You then can also, when you get into their rev share option with the team decal, while you don't have to be the most successful team, it does help if your team is winning because of the marketing that comes from it, the eyes and attention that's put on it. But you could be a poop no-name team that supports your team well and has a dope decal that people want to buy, because at the end of the day, as long as the decal is cool, people will use it. I have experience with this with version 1. When version 1 first came into Rocket League, they weren't that good. They were actually pretty awful. It hurt a little bit. But they had a purple decal that no one else had. People really liked it. They made some pretty dang good money off of it. So good decal with rev share options, content that utilizes the money you're spending on your marketing tool, which is your esports team. And you can use that to leverage partnership deals and etc. Hopefully a title partnership. Very unlikely that stuff is going to happen nowadays. But the biggest thing is you got to reduce costs. You cannot be spending $12, $14, $16,000 a month per player on your teams. So while there is some things that say you have to be at the top, to which I do agree to an extent, it is not exactly the case. With that in mind, the reason why this is such a big loss for the Rocket League esports scene is because Liquid, believe it or not, was actually one of the biggest proponents in pushing the esport forward. And not a lot of people know this. Everybody just saw that Liquid wasn't making content and people were pissed about it. But Liquid checked Psyonix in the gut more than any other organization I know. They constantly were ribbing and trying to do anything they could to get information from Psyonix, push them in the right direction, persist with like, hey, we need these things. We need this communication. We need this type of stuff so we can sustain. And I'm personally worried that Liquid's not going to be in it anymore. Liquid was a huge beneficiary in it, and they also helped everybody else as well. Them constantly going to talks with Psyonix and Epic Games and being like, hey, this is how we do it in other things. This is the stuff you need to implement. This is the stuff that we need. These are the like, this is the type of stuff that was so important, and not many people knew it. Like, Team Liquid cared. They had the best booths by far at all the live events they attended for majors and worlds. Like, so not only did they do those little things for the fans, but behind the scenes, the stuff that people don't get to see, they did an incredible job of holding Psyonix accountable. It hurts, man. It really hurts to see Team Liquid go. They're also massive. It's Team Liquid. They're one of the longest standing organizations, and for them to take a step away is really tough. They could have went with a team that was kind of lesser. They could have maybe rebuilt. I think there is some good talent in EU still available that they could have built with a Chronic, but the fact that they're like, you know what, it's just not worth it. It's better for us to not spend any money. Two things. One, smart of Team Liquid. Would love to work with Team Liquid someday. They definitely know what the heck they're doing. Very, very intelligent about the way that they're going about it to reserve that cash flow and then tackle it again in the future. I hope they do a better job of tackling it in the future. There's a lot of ideas and things that could be done, but you can't say it wasn't successful. You know, they did some really good things. So again, Team Liquid, unfortunate to see them go, but I'm personally hoping they come back sooner than later because of that gut check they gave to Psyonix. Not a lot of people realize how much they poked and prodded and did whatever they could to make sure that like Rocket League esports was moving forward. And I do agree with their major sentiment in this, is that there is definitely some things that for teams that are not at the top, the teams that don't have the team decal, it is very difficult to generate revenue in Rocket League. And that is not the case in some other esports like the Counter-Strikes and this and that. You go look at Counter-Strike in the amateur scene, there's so many teams that are able to sustain. There's so many secondary leagues that have hundreds of millions of dollars pumping through. You know, I know some casters that like cast for some like C tier league and they make multi-millions. Like there is ways to do this, and I hope we get there someday. Based on the conversations I've had with Psyonix, I do like the way they're trending. It's just going to take some time, but there is definitely some low-hanging fruit stuff that they could do. Alongside that, we did have two organizations also talk about this. The first one was Peter Thompson, who's the co-owner of Endpoint, who talks about, hey, we're still sticking around. We plan to because we love it. We believe in it. But we're trying to see how contracts look. I talked about, you know, how you got to stop overpaying people. The market average right now is too high. Still, teams are paying way too much, and the only way they can justify those prices is if they're taking like 70% of the prize earnings, which just isn't going to happen. So either you come in with a more reasonable contract and you say, hey, players, we're going to pay you like half, maybe a third of what you were used to because that's all we can afford. And then when the players go, nope, we want this, you have to say, fine, find somebody else instead of caving like you've been doing for the past 5 years. You got to put your foot down if you want to stick around. You don't want to keep investing and paying crazy money for something that you don't think is worth it. Because right now, the players have definitely been getting away with it. I don't have it against them. Players should try to get earn a bag. Agents should be trying to do whatever they can to get these players as much as they can. But people are going to have to come to a realization that esports is not in the place that it was. The market has been ever so inflated since Cloud9 and Energy hit a bid war way back. But like, some things got to change for the infrastructure. Not only for the organizations to keep paying players, but the players also got to live up to their contracts. Because they're getting paid like some serious money to do nothing other than play a couple hours a week. It's crazy. People got to be held accountable. That's a massive generalization. There's plenty of people that work really hard. Alongside that, Jeff, who is also the COO over at Resolve, says, hey, things in the past will change the season for it to be viable for us as a business, which includes player contracts. That's the nature of where we are in the industry. And I agree. I assume Jeff is going to sign a middle of the pack team, but they're going to be able to do it for relatively cheap. So because of that, their opportunity cost is there. You know what? We're going to spend a little bit less. We may not be as competitive. The upside is if we do break into the top 16s and the top 8s, it's only upside marketing benefits for us, but we're also paying a much lesser salary every month from here out. So there is some people that are starting to learn and understand that you can't keep paying these players $16,000 a month to have no social media, to have no YouTube, to have no involvement online. And just showing up and playing video games is not enough. It just isn't for these organizations. Now, well, the money's not coming in. So some crazy stuff going around in the esports system. And of course, that applies to Rocket League as well. If you guys want more details on this, if you guys want me to extrapolate a little bit more, or you have more specific questions, stop by the stream, twitch.tv/Lawler, or leave it in the comments down below, and I'll try to answer what I can. But other than that, if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and notifications. We'll see you in the next one.